Within the most recent episode of the show, we saw that Joel and Ellie ended up in Kansas City, which we learned was essentially a free city where Fedra had no control or ability to rule over. Instead, the residents looked upon one person who was their leader, and this was Kathleen. Towards the final third of the episode, we saw that Kathleen was shown something concerning in the ground, but she chose to ignore it. But what exactly was it? Well, let's break down and explain this scene and reveal what's going to come out of the ground and why it's so important to the show. So let's get into it. Here is what was in the ground in The Last of Us Episode 4. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The most recent episode of the show introduced two new threats to Joel and Ellie, Kathleen and the hunters that she led, and also the threat to the city that was buried beneath the ground that looked like it was pulsating and ready to erupt out of the floor. The truth behind what's under the ground is that it seems as though it's going to be a group of bloaters. Kathleen decided to turn a blind eye to it and said that they would deal with what they needed to deal with in the present moment, which was finding Henry and Sam, and then she would tell the residents what was under the building. I found it quite baffling that this was the approach that Kathleen had, as she seemed to know of the danger that was lying beneath them. But she chose to just seal off the building and look for two people that were relatively harmless in the grand scheme of things, especially when compared to a group of bloaters that were soon to be erupting from the ground. So judging by the trailer for next week's episode, it looks like Kathleen's decision to push them to the back of her mind is going to come back to bite her and also the residents of the city. So what are bloaters? Bloaters are essentially the fourth stage of the cordyceps infection. So if an individual was bitten and they managed to survive a long enough time, then they'd essentially turn into this. First the runner, then the stalker, then the clicker, and then the bloater. So it's an extremely far along part of the infection, usually a few years. The bloaters, whilst being one of the latter stages, they also have different abilities and strengths and weaknesses to the early stage infection. Compared to a runner that is usually quite fast, nimble, and will aim to bite individuals to spread the infection, bloaters are the opposite. They're known to be relatively slow due to their sheer size, but they contain a lot of strength, so much so that they brutally kill the people that they get a hold of by essentially ripping their face off in a horrific way. The bloaters are blind like the clickers, and they emit a sound that they use to navigate the space, but it's slightly different to what we hear from the clickers. It's of a much lower pitch. The bloaters as well have been able to build up a kind of armor that covers them, so it makes their body a lot stronger and makes it easier to not get damaged from the traditional weapons that get used on the infected people. The main weakness that a bloater has is that it's susceptible to fire, like the other infected individuals, so a weapon that is fire emitting is the best thing to use against it. With Joel, Ellie, Henry, Sam, and the rest of Kansas City looking like they're going to be facing off against these latter stage infected people, it looks like it's quite literally going to tear the city apart and ruin what was once a free city, so it's going to be interesting to see the battle occur. However, let's now discuss why this scene could be so important to the future of the show. Spoilers to the game are at this point. Well, within the game, after Joel, Ellie, Henry and Sam fend off some of the hunters, Sam ultimately ends up being bitten by an infected person. Within the trailer for the next episode, it looked as though we had a scene that was similar to the game, with Ellie, Henry and Sam all together, and I imagine Joel away in the distance keeping watch over them. So this outbreak of the infected that are coming to the city could be the very thing that means that Sam's time is about to get cut short. And as well, it could also mean the same for Henry. So we'll have to wait and see if it does play out the same. This moment of ignoring it could have large consequences to the two new characters that we just got introduced to, and as well, the rest of the city being torn apart. Bloaters are dangerous individuals that do more damage than what a runner or a stalker does, and they're definitely more monster than what a clicker is, so I'm intrigued to see how they're going to be delivered on screen in the next episode. So, there you have it, what was in the ground in The Last of Us Episode 4. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Are you looking forward to seeing The Bloaters? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.